And I became really close with a couple of Muslim friends of mine from back in the day. I remember seeing them pray. One of my good friends, I remember seeing him pray, and I was like, that is beautiful. And I tell you, we could be doing better as Christians, because they pray. In Islam, we get to pray 5 times a day. Can't explain it. I thanked her abundantly. To finally convert, I needed that sense of security. I really did. And if I didn't have that sense of security and I converted, it would not be a good outcome. I remember I asked her to please help me take shahada right then and there. I would just have to say, like, just the connection with our Creator, the connection we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just wonderful. I don't know how to say it, but I was basically taught that Muslims were like the devils of this world. I know this sounds kind of cliche. I would often say, like, a lot of people say this, but I would just say it again, that Islam is peace. The advice I would give to possible converts or reverts is don't be afraid to convert. If you want to convert, if you feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling you to convert, do it. If you're someone in my shoes who was practically, again, I hate to say it, but who was practically disowned by their own family, Allah is going to provide the way for you. I mean, Allah is always going to provide the way. Allah guides who He chooses.
Welcome, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, Anthony. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, alhamdulillah. Anthony, you converted about 1 to 2 weeks ago, and he's 21 years old, and he's from Arizona. He once even met Pope Francis, which I find very fascinating. He was formerly Protestant and then converted to Catholicism, and now has reverted to Islam. So, how are things in Arizona?
They're pretty nice here. I mean, nice weather. Can't complain.
Okay. So you're a fairly new revert.
Yeah, mashallah.
MashaAllah. And
yes, I am.
That's wonderful. So tell me, tell us about your journey to Islam. So was it hard for you to convert?
You have no idea. It was probably the most difficult thing I've had to do.
Okay.
I've done, I should say.
Why is that? Tell us more about why that was the most difficult thing.
Well, you see, I grew up, as you said, I grew up in a Protestant. I grew up in a Protestant household where, let's just say, my family. How do I put it? They were not tolerant of Islam or Muslims at all. It was bad.
Yeah, sure.
So, but it's so strange. Like, they were okay with me converting to the Catholic Church, even though there was some, they were still a little iffy about that. But one time when I was thinking about converting to Islam back in the day, I asked my family, what would you think if I converted to Islam? And basically the short answer was, you better not. That was the short answer. Yeah.
So what brought you to Islam?
Well, a lot of things, really. Like, I grew up, I basically was surrounded with Middle Eastern and the Lebanese community in my area, and they're pretty diverse. A lot are Maronite Catholic, and then you have a lot that are Muslim. And I became really close with a couple of Muslim friends of mine from back in the day when I was younger. And it's just, I remember seeing them pray when we were because a couple of us went to high school together. I remember one of my good friends, I remember seeing him pray, and I was like, I was like, that is beautiful, and I tell you, we could be doing better as Christians, because they pray. Again, we in Islam we get to pray 5 times a day, but
Yes, yes.
you're lucky to see Christians and Catholics at least give 5 minutes out of their day.
So you said that you were Maronite Catholic?
Yes.
Or
yes, I was.
So tell me, I don't really know enough about that. Could you give me more information? I'm very curious.
So the Maronite Catholic Church is what you would call an Eastern Rite. And we basically, as a Maronite, Maronites are in full communion with the Catholic Church, but they have their own little traditions. Because the Maronite Church is based in Lebanon, Arabic is used in a lot of our masses. A lot of the masses were used a lot of Arabic.
That's amazing. That's very interesting. So do they use the term Allah as well?
That depends. If we were doing an English mass, we would use God, but if we were doing an all Arabic mass, then we would use Allah.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, it was. I remember clearly. It was very interesting converting to the Maronite Church before I became Muslim, before I became a believer.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So I'm taking it that your family did not take your conversion to Islam or your reversion to Islam very well.
No.
So tell me a little bit about that.
So, well, basically, before I converted, when I graduated school, when I got done with my years in high school and started my years in college, online college, my Catholic church that I went to runs a village for those who are either retired or have many health problems like myself. It basically call it what you could call it, like medical housing, whatever. Like the staff were very basically had very basic training just to kind of help the residents like with daily things. They didn't have any medical training. But because my health didn't require as much care as it does now, I was able to live in the village, and my who is now my permanent 24/7 caregiver, Lina, actually would make the 40-minute drive to the village every day to deliver meals to the residents.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's amazing.
Yeah, I remember the first week of me living in the village. I met her, and she came to bring me my meal, and I started talking to her in Arabic because obviously growing up in a Middle Eastern community, I was able to do that, and she was just so shocked. She asked me, "You can speak Arabic?" And I'm like, "Yes, I can." And she asked,
"Wow."
Yeah, and I remember her telling me about her culture, and I remember because fun fact, she came from Palestine, and she actually used to be a nurse in.
Okay.
Yeah, she used to be a nurse before she came here. So I remember her, and I would always practice my Arabic with her every time she would bring my meals, and whenever the conversation of religion came up, she told me about her religion, Islam, and I told her how I was exposed to it in my days in school and throughout the Lebanese community.
Sure.
And
that's wonderful.
The coolest thing. And and then a couple a month before I finally converted, I told her that the thought of converting has been on my heart a little bit, and she would just give me different types of materials, like different. I remember her giving me my Quran. I
Oh, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I remember her giving it to me, and I would just it was big print,
Mm-hmm,
so I could actually see it. Uh,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
so I would be able to read it on my spare time. Uh, and whenever my family would come just to check on me, because my family, again, the staff at the village do not know how to do like advanced medical care like I need throughout the day.
Sure, sure,
So
sure, sure.
my family would come in, do what needs to be done during the day, and then they'd come by every now and again throughout the day to ask to see if I needed any help.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, but I remember whenever I saw my family members outside the window, I would have to uh, literally hide the Quran in my cabinet or
oh
something,
my goodness.
because
Wow.
if I was caught with that thing, yeah, if I was
Mm-hmm,
caught
mm-hmm.
with that thing, it would not be.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. Yeah. So,
yeah.
okay. So, wow, this is a very interesting story. So your family, of course, from what you're saying, didn't take it
They
very
did, but
well.
no,
Have
they did
they,
not. And
that would be the hard part for you, wouldn't it? I mean, your family is
yeah,
very important to you. And um, so, especially, tell me about what kind of medical conditions do you have? Because you keep referring to that you had
um,
some medical conditions.
yeah, well, um, I have, I have muscle weakness that is getting worse, so it's getting
Mm-hmm.
hard for me to walk. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of health problems, including a terminal illness that is progressively getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
I've had it since I was really little,
Oh,
and
mm-hmm.
yeah, I can't remember the name of it right off the bat. It's a very long one. I'll have to look
Oh,
into it.
yeah. Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, I'll have to ask yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, and it's yeah, I have, let's just say I have quite a bit of health problems.
Yes, yes.
So
Well, alhamdulillah that you have someone to help you, and because Lina is helping you,
mm,
nurse now.
oh, she's
Alhamdulillah.
wonderful. She's wonderful. But
Mhm,
I
mhm,
was gonna get to as a little side note, I actually met the Pope
mhm.
1 year after I converted to the Catholic Church. Uh,
Wow.
a couple of friends and I went to Italy. They were able
Mhm.
to bring me, and that was when you wouldn't be able to tell I had any health problems. I was able to
Wow.
travel, do all that stuff, and
Wow.
a couple friends and I went to Italy. We had so much
Mhm, mhm.
fun, but meeting
Oh yeah.
the Pope was just wonderful.
Oh, how amazing. What was that like to meet Pope Francis?
He I don't know what it was, but he just he like being around him, he was just a very warm and welcoming individual.
Mhm.
Like it was something else. I'll tell you, it was just probably the one of the best things I've ever done. And
That is amazing. He seems like he would be like a very open and warm person from what I've seen of him.
oh, he is. I mean, after all, he tries to be. I mean, he's a very open person.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah.
Okay. So, about a month before you converted, you were thinking of converting and you were given a lot of useful information
Yeah.
in a Quran, which is amazing. And yeah, well, how did you break this to your parents
So
and to your
I was
family?
gonna get. I'm actually excited. I'm actually really looking forward to getting to that. Well,
Mm-hmm,
the day I converted, I remember clearly.
mm-hmm,
I had no idea she was a nurse, Lina, and she
mm-hmm,
comes
mm-hmm.
in, and my family was out doing Christmas shopping, and they had to help with my grandmother who's got health problems too. So Lina comes in and she's giving me my meals, and she notices my oxygen tube. It looks like I could use a new one, and she notices it looks like my little IV needs to be replaced. So she tells me that she used to be a nurse, and she just for my own health, she would like to get it done. And I said, okay.
Sure, of
I
course.
told her, I'm like, if you're a nurse and you can do it, please, because it needs.
Oh yeah.
So she did that. And then again, this is on the day I converted. I finally told her
Sure.
why I was so scared to convert, because basically I don't know if you've heard stories, but there have been accounts, and I know a couple of people who have converted and their family practically just cuts off all communication, doesn't contact them at all. And
Sure. I've heard that before.
yeah, practically, if I guess you could say disowns or whatever you want to say. Like, and I told her that my family are the main people who know how to do my care, and they would not I told her the honest truth that if I converted and they found out, our relationship would not be great. I would not probably not see them, and I would probably practically be disowned, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And
wow, subhanAllah.
And then when she heard all this, I remember this clear as day. She asked me if my family does find out that I converted, would I like to, because basically she asks, would I like to come stay with her and her family? And because, and I was shocked. I was like, you're serious?
Wow.
And she's like, she's like, I'm serious. And I was just, I can't explain it. I thanked her abundantly for
amazing.
To finally convert. I needed that sense of security. I really did. And if I didn't have that sense of security and I converted, it would not be a good outcome. So I remember I asked her to please help me take shahada right then and there. And as my family, and she was helping me take shahada. As I took my shahada, my family walked in the door. They walked in the cottage. They heard me taking shahada, and they walked in. When I looked over and I saw them there, I could tell. I saw the disappointed look on their faces. I was like, in my head, I was like, oh no. And then they just left. They just walked out.
Wow.
They left.
They just turned around and left.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you hear from them after that?
Yeah. We do like small texts every now and again. We really don't communicate like we used to. And yeah, but yeah. Anyways, after I converted, I just hugged Lina and cried tears of joy that I converted. I was just so overwhelmed with joy. And not only
amazing.
that I converted, I remember making dua to Allah and asking him, I remember saying, Ya Rab, I want to convert, but I don't have the sense of security that I need. Please provide me a way. And in comes Lina. So yeah, and I remember, and then after I converted, I remember her going up to the main office of our village, letting them know what's going on, and she was able to do the paperwork so that way I could move with them. And then after she came back, I remember her calling her husband, telling her husband and her family to get the spare room ready and get the big back of their big van ready because they were going to load me up with all my things and my medical bed.
Sure.
So that way I could I could learn what I need to from Islam, but also again get that care I need, because it was getting to the I'll say within another week or so I would have had to leave the village anyway, because it was just getting to the point where I needed around the clock care. And I remember the long drive there. I remember Lina was just telling me stories of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and I remember her telling me that her children are getting the spare room ready, and that my time there was going to be very busy because they were going to teach me how to do all the 5 daily prayers and all of that. And
Alhamdulillah. So are you?
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So how has any of the new sort of rituals or any of the new sort of things that you've learned as an Islam, have any of them been confusing or difficult for you?
I mean, one thing I will say is that just getting used to the fact that we're praying to only one God, and even though Christianity claims that there's one God, they like to bring the Trinity into it, and I'm like, whoa, wait. I was like, how can there be one God but yet three? I asked my priest, is that God a tri-God, or is he? It just never made sense. And I will say, whenever I do go pray, I often accidentally grab from my pocket to grab my rosary, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. And
so yeah, the Trinity was always confusing to me too, because it didn't seem, I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. But I was told by the priest, oh, it's a mystery, we don't understand it, you just have to believe. SubhanAllah. So yeah. You have to, otherwise you get excommunicated.
Yeah, it's just like, basically, if you don't just believe in it, then you're not Catholic, I guess. I don't know.
No, it literally says in the Catholic Catechism, the minute you say that Jesus is not divine, you are automatically excommunicated.
Oh wow, see, even I didn't know that, because
it does say that. I have one.
Oh wow. See, I did forget to mention that before I converted to Islam, I was really involved in the church. I was in the church choir. I sang a bunch of Arabic solos. I helped organize retreats. I was basically one of the young people to kind of help reach out to the other young people in our church.
No, that's wonderful that you were involved. I was also in the choir, and I still enjoy singing.
Yeah.
So, was there any easy parts to your conversion?
I mean, the whole thing that made it easy was Lina and her family. Anytime, because they are very knowledgeable They are very knowledgeable believers.
Wow.
Like, if I have any questions, I can always either go to Lina, and if she doesn't know, I can always go to her husband. I can also go to her husband, Sayed.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
So that's wonderful. I think it's really important to have that sort of, I don't know, to have someone to guide you when it comes to Islam.
Exactly.
I have a good friend who helps me quite a bit.
Oh, really?
So, oh, yeah. My friend from Kashmir.
One thing I really love about Islam is, since sometimes I actually do have a hard time seeing, my caregiver, Lina, often pulls up audio of the recitation of the Quran, and oh my gosh, it just sounds like the most, I know it wouldn't be considered chanting, but it just sounds like the most beautiful chanting in Arabic. It's just so
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
one clear thing. I know the Quran is the book literally
Mm-hmm.
literally from God, because I remember this was I want to say 4 days ago. It was
Sure, sure.
around about that time. I don't know how familiar you are with healthcare, but it was familiar. It was around
Mm-hmm.
about it was the day where my caregiver had to do, I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
two IV pokes, feeding tube change,
Oh,
and
ouch.
suctioning.
Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
scared.
Mm-hmm.
Those are scary. But the thing is,
Yeah, that's not comfortable.
no, they're not. But the thing is,
Mm-hmm. Oh.
when her husband and her oldest daughter that's going into nursing, when they both recited, I can't remember what surah it was. I'll have to ask. But when they recited
Mm-hmm.
a passage from the Quran, I was, I can't explain it. I went from being very scared to being
Mm-hmm.
as calm as can be. I was basically calm to the point where I really did not, uh, I guess you could say, I did not notice what Lina was doing. I was so
Mm-hmm.
calm. I was just, I don't
Yeah,
know what it was.
alhamdulillah. That's
But
wonderful.
yeah, the Quran put me in such a state of peace where according to her, I didn't even, it looked like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even aware of what was going on. I was
Wow.
just so calm by the recitation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it really is. So, have you noticed
yeah.
any changes in your life, like, sort of inner changes after converting?
I feel more at peace. I really do. I mean, just being able to finally be in full communion uh with Allah, who is the most gracious and the most merciful,
Mm-hmm.
is just so fulfilling, and just so, I can't explain it. It's just, I'm more at peace than what I've ever been.
That's beautiful. That is
Mm,
beautiful.
yeah.
So,
And one side note, uh they say that obviously prayer, being communicating with our creator, has spiritual benefits, but
mm-hmm.
for me, actually, doing the prayers actually has a physical benefit, because every time I get, even though it's
Mm-hmm.
hard for me, every time my caregiver and her husband help me get on the floor
Mm-hmm.
to do sujood for prayer, and then get back up, it's actually helped make the daily physical therapy we do easier. Like, it's getting
Oh,
to the point where I'm
alhamdulillah.
able to sit up on my own and get up on my own again. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's doing the prayer has had those kind of physical uh blessings as well as the spiritual ones.
Yes, yes. That's it's good. It's good exercise. You're doing
Yes, it is.
every
Because you could
posture
say,
of prayer has good exercise. I have a friend who calls it, what did he call it? Fitra RX is what he was calling it.
oh,
So
that's great. That
yeah,
is
yeah.
wonderful.
Hmm. So
Yeah, and
he's very good. His name's Wassam Sharif, so I should give him credit for his Fitra RX.
oh, awesome.
You can find him on YouTube. Um, but speaking of the Quran, um, can you read? Have you Ismail, can you get print that's big enough for you to read the Quran, or do you want to learn
Um,
to read, or
it's,
what do you want to do when it
it's
comes to your relationship with the holy book?
um, Lina helps me with it, but like when
Hmm.
it's days that I just can't see well enough, I
Hmm.
mainly listen to it. That's my main
Sure,
outlet,
sure.
but like sometimes I do read it, and I can read very little in Arabic. She often has to
Hmm.
provide an English translation, which I know
Sure, sure,
the
sure.
translations aren't always the most accurate, because Arabic can have so many meanings for one word.
Sure, sure, sure. But you have a lot of experience with Arabic too, so I would think that would help you.
Yeah, it does, but speaking and reading Arabic is two
Mhm.
different things.
Mhm.
Like, I'm more of a speaker. I can read a little bit of Arabic, but I'm more of a
Mhm. Mhm.
speaker.
Mhm. Alhamdulillah. I mean, that's wonderful. I'm more of a reader. I can't speak Arabic.
Oh,
Aklan was Aklan. I mean, that's about it.
right. Yeah,
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
yeah, well, yeah. And one thing I won't forget was the third day after being in their household. Uh, their oldest daughter likes to sew and make clothing and stuff, and
Mhm.
she,
Mhm.
I don't know, I guess while I was sleeping, because due to my health, I sleep a lot.
Mhm.
'Cause-
Mhm.
but
Sure. Sure.
I will during dinner, her daughter gave me an all white prayer robe that she made me.
Oh,
I was
how
Yeah,
wonderful.
she took time out of her day, since after all she is on winter break for nursing school, so
Mhm. Mhm.
she
Mhm.
she took time out of her day to make me an all white prayer robe that I can use
Oh,
every
that's
time for.
wonderful. Have you been able to? I mean, I know with coronavirus and everything, it's been difficult, but have you been able to go to the masjid? Is there one near you?
We did try to go. Of course,
Mhm.
my nurse being a nurse, her and her family were very careful. Uh,
Mhm.
and the masjid is only about a 5-minute walk, and
Oh,
the
wow.
road in our community is very well kept. So we were actually,
Mhm.
I had the option of either trying to walk, uh, using my wheelchair, or they could wheel me in the
Mhm.
medical bed, because our masjid is big
Mhm.
enough to where it could fit my bed. And
Oh, wow.
I was too tired to the point where I just couldn't get up, so they took me in my bed. And
Mhm. Mhm.
I remember clear as day, sitting up in my medical bed making
Mhm.
public shahada, and the limited people that were there were just
Alhamdulillah.
all so happy. And
Mhm. Mhm.
they didn't want to get too close, but they got close enough to where I could see them, and a couple of people, including the
Mhm.
imam, wanted to meet me.
Sure. Sure. Of
And
course. Wow.
yeah, but we're probably not going to do the masjid again for a little while, because that took a lot
Mhm.
out of
Mhm.
me. I had to be on my breather all
Sure.
day
Sure.
the next day.
Wow.
That wiped me out. So
Mhm. Mhm.
we're probably going to go when we can get my health to a better state, if possible, and especially
Sure. Sure.
we're going to
Sure.
start going when Corona gets a bit more under control, even though it's not as bad as it is in other places right now
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
Arizona.
Mhm. Yeah. Sure. Sure. But you're is so much more of a risk. So I would be cautious if I were too.
Yeah, yeah. Lena, like, basically,
So.
yeah, Lena had me wear my special, like, literally, as soon as we were getting ready to go to the masjid, she actually had a spare medical gown for me that she
Mhm.
had me put on,
Mhm.
and she had me, like, put on my special mask and everything. So I was as
Mhm.
protected as could be.
Oh, alhamdulillah. That's good. That's good. So, what was some of the best advice that anyone gave you after you became Muslim?
Oh my gosh. That would be a hard one. I'm trying to, uh, I guess one thing that I don't know if it'd be considered advice, but one thing that really spoke to me when one time Lina and I were just talking about Islamic theology. And
Mhm. Mhm.
one thing she told me is that, which kind of goes along with the Catholic principle, but yet at the same time, as you know from the
Mhm.
description of Jannah, Jannah is just the most beautiful place. Uh,
Mhm.
and and Lena told me that even though I am struggling so much with hardships with my health, uh,
Mhm.
uh, that Allah is going to turn those hardships into abundant rewards in paradise. inshallah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just
Inshallah. Me too.
when she told me that, I was just like, that was just the most wonderful thing to hear because
Mm-hmm.
uh, if you've got health problems like mine, it's just so difficult. But
Mm-hmm.
knowing that Allah is gonna turn those health problems into wonderful rewards in paradise,
Mm-hmm.
it helps you get through it.
Yes, yes. Alhamdulillah, that's wonderful. So, have you learned a lot about the Prophet, peace be upon him? And tell me what you have learned so far.
Um, I'm learning things about him every day.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I'm learn like we haven't really we touched a little bit on the prophet, but we're doing it little day by day. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's basically as they say in the Christian faith, you give the milk before you give the meat. And she's first
Mm-hmm.
just been giving me like basically you give the easy stuff to digest, then you do the hard
Sure,
stuff.
sure, sure.
And she's been
Mm-hmm.
but it's just the thing I've the one thing I've learned about just one thing she told me was during when he was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I just found so wonderful is that he was obviously Allah destined him to be the prophet from the beginning. That's just
Mm-hmm.
how it goes. But
Mm-hmm.
one story that I heard was when I can't remember how it exactly went, but when he was an infant, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Allah protected him with from the heat with a cloud, and I was just like, I just
Wow.
found that to be very that he cared that much about his prophet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I haven't heard that one myself, so thank you for sharing that. That's
Yeah, and
beautiful.
one thing w- besides many reasons, one big reason I'm looking forward to meeting our prophet in paradise is hearing about what he's going to do on the day of judgment for his ummah uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when he's going to basically hearing how he's going to intercede for I want to say I can't remember I think it was 70,000 people
Mm-hmm.
to go to paradise without any judgment or any punishment.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, without being questioned. Alhamdulillah.
Exactly. I mean I try to even though I'm a very very new Muslim, I try to be as good as I can be just because I I really want that kind of mercy and our prophet to intercede for me as well as the entire family I'm with.
So, what is something that you really love about Islam?
Something I really love about Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Um I would just have to say like just the I would just have to say the connection with our creator.
Mm-hmm.
The connection we have
Alhamdulillah.
with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
praying with him, praying to him 5 times a day, building
Mm-hmm.
that relationship with him, and
Mm-hmm.
just know like especially hearing about paradise, just knowing how much he cares for his uh for us is just
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. I will say this one thing that kind of put me off is the whole fasting situation. Like,
Ah.
why would Allah want us to fast on Ramadan? And then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I remember asking Lina, I'm like, am I gonna have to fast because I kind of get fed through IVs and a feeding tube, so I kind of don't want to do that. I don't want to fast. And she's like,
Sure, sure.
she tells me right as I'm asking, she's like, oh no, don't worry, you're not fasting. I'm like, okay, thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah. There are exceptions.
Yeah, and she told me that Allah is more understanding than that.
Mm, yes, yes. Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. So yes, indeed, indeed. So just out of curiosity, so growing up, um, what was your view of Islam? What were you taught about Islam?
Ooh,
Because you talked to me about how your family had a different view, but yet at the same time you were in a neighborhood. full of
Oh no.
neighbors who were Muslim.
Oh
So,
no. Oh boy. Well, let's just say like uh I wasn't in an I wasn't in a neighborhood full of Muslims. I was just around a diverse Lebanese community uh
okay, okay.
through through school and through a bunch of activities
Uh-huh.
I like to go do as a
Oh,
younger kid.
okay.
Um
Mhm.
but I was basically taught my parents had a very bad prejudice against Muslims. They did not trust they didn't trust
Mm-hmm.
Muslims at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what they think is that all Muslims are extremists. They oppress women.
Oh, yeah.
They do this and that. And if I were and they their God is a warmonger, this and that. And
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
I was taught that Muslims are basically I was taught that the equivalent of how I don't know how to say it, but I was basically taught that Muslims were like the devils of this world.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, of course, you've learned differently, and how would you address that with people? Because sometimes people will ask questions, you know.
Oh
At least
yeah.
I get questions sometimes.
Yeah,
How do
definitely.
you address those things?
Well, I tell people I always tell them every single religion, every single creed has their bad apples. I mean,
Hmm.
Look at Catholicism back in the day. They did the
Hmm.
Inquisition and
Hmm.
Crusades.
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and as
And
you
the
may
Crusades,
know,
yes, exactly.
yeah, as you may know, a lot of murders were committed in the Catholic Church's name.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we
Sure,
all
sure.
I tell people we're all human. Again, everyone has their bad apples, but at the same time, you can't label a single religion by a few people. And I always tell them
Yes, yes.
when the Quran says something, I always tell them again that the English translations can be a little inaccurate because Arabic can have different meanings with one single word.
Hmm.
And I often
Sure,
tell
sure,
them, I often tell them, to you have to look at the context of what is being said.
sure,
And
sure.
I just tell them,
No,
I'm like,
that makes sense.
yeah. And I would tell people to get out of your comfort zone. Uh, Try if you know a Muslim, try asking them, and so that
Yeah,
way your
sure.
horizons can be more opened.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
we weren't made to stay in our comfort zones. If we were just in our comfort zones all the time, it would be so boring.
So yeah, I think you're right. You should just try asking someone who's Muslim about Islam. And yeah, I think that's very important because there's so many misconceptions about Islam. So yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, I agree. There's just so many.
so if you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting a message out to millions or billions, what Islamic message would it say and why? It could be a few words or a paragraph.
Hmm. I know I know this sounds kind of cliche, but
Mm-hmm.
I would often say, like, a lot of people say this, but I would just say it again, that Islam is peace.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Islam
it's a
Islam is peace.
yes, this beautiful message, and it's true. It's so true. So, what is the most important thing about being a Muslim you wish you knew at the start of your journey?
What I wish I knew.
Hmm.
There's so much I wish I knew, but I honestly wish I knew uh more when it comes to uh like oh gosh, there's just that's yeah, I have that is there's a lot I wish I knew, but I guess the one thing is that is I had no idea. Like, I often thought that me growing up in a Christian thing, I often thought that everyone believed in the Trinity, but one thing I wish I knew is how downright, like, even me converting, I still was a little curious about how they viewed God. I was like a fresh new Muslim off the like. I was just, so I guess I wish I knew how well, like, how wonderful Islam sticks to monotheism. Like, there is no other God. There is no Trinity. No, none of that.
Well, that's very good. So, what advice would you give anyone who is considering converting to Islam?
The advice I would give to possible converts or reverts is don't be afraid to convert. If you want to convert, if you feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling you to convert, do it. But, and don't be like, if you're someone in my shoes who was practically, again, I hate to say it, but who was practically disowned by their own family, Allah is going to provide the way for you. I mean, Allah is always going to provide the way. Allah guides who he chooses. And for, like, myself, if it took having a 24/7, a Muslim 24/7 nurse, Allah will do it. And again, Allah did what he felt that he needed to do for me to convert. And Allah is going to take care of you. He's going to help you convert. He will guide you. He will provide for you. The best thing to do is to don't worry. Take shahada. Do it as soon as possible, because the reality is we don't know if we're going to get another tomorrow. We don't know when the angel, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to have the angel of death come. We just don't know.
We just don't know. It's true. It's true. SubhanAllah. So, well, thank you so much for your time. And this is, I mean, you have such an incredible story, and Jazakallah khair for sharing it with us. And may Allah make it easy on you. And I'll keep you in my dua. And thank you again. So,
well, it was my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
You're most welcome.